This is the average salary of Americans, $59,428. The median income of Americans is $67,521. If you make less than $12,760 per year, you are below the poverty line. About 11.6% of Americans are below this line. That's more than 1 in 10 people, or 37.9 million Americans in total. An income of between $0 to $50,000 make you lower class. If you make between $50,000 to $150,000, you are middle class. Anything above 150K USD American dollars, you are upper class. If your family is 4 people or more, you need to be making at least $60,499 to $181,496 to be middle class. 29% of people in the US are lower class, 52% are middle class, and 19% are upper class. And here's why being poor costs more money. The most obvious way where it costs more to be poor is with banks. Banks usually allow zero fees if you keep a balance of around $1,500 or more. If your balance dips below, you will be charged a fee to keep your account open. The fee varies by bank, but it's normally less than $10 per month. That money adds up over the years, and if you have multiple debit cards, it can easily eat into your overall budget. When it comes to lending money, lower income people have on average lower credit scores. Credit scores tell financial institutions how credible you are and how likely you are to pay back your debt. Banks prefer to lend money to people who will pay them back, so you are more likely to get a loan if you have a good credit score. Credit score is determined by how on time you are at paying back your debts, if there are any overdue bills, and the utilization score of your credit card. If, say, for example, you're allowed a $1,000 limit on your card and you use $400 of the available in the allotted time period, your utilization ratio will be 40%. You used 40% of the allowed credit limit. Utilization of less than 30% is ideal. If you're constantly utilizing 90% or more of your allotted limits, your credit score will not be as high. People with less money are more likely to use more of their allowed amount on their credit cards, less likely to pay their bills on time, and therefore less likely to get approved for loans when they need it. This would result in them needing to go to payday loans to get money if they suddenly need it, because no banks would lend money to them. These payday loan companies charge outrageous 30 to 800% interest, so it gets even harder for these people to pay back their debts. The cost of being poor is not having access to safer loans. In order to get an apartment, you need to show proof of a good credit score. Again, maybe a problem for some people. On top of that, you also need to put down a security deposit, typically about 1 month of rent. People who don't have that extra money saved up may have to stay in hotel rooms. Hotels don't require a month's worth of deposit. You extend your stay, but it's more expensive in the long run. There's also another problem with living in a hotel. If your address is a hotel, employers don't tend to like that too much and may pass you up for employment. Employers want their employees to live in actual residences, not hotels. This woman and her son became homeless when her husband died. They began living at an airport.
Rebecca has lived here with her adult son and cat for almost a year. She says the airport is safer than the streets and overcrowded shelters.
You've got cameras everywhere, you've got police.
She uses the Wi-Fi at the airport to apply.
She was even hired as an employee at the airport for a while, but was let go because the airline found out she was homeless.
She did get a job, ironically, here at the airport, doing what she did in Phoenix, pushing passengers in wheelchairs.
I like customer service a lot. I like the exercise I got pushing chairs.
But was fired a week later. She believes the company found out she was homeless.
It's hard to go to interviews when you have to be here, when you don't have a definite permanent address. The address that I use for mailing comes back to a church for the homeless, so they pretty much put 2 and 2 together. And then everywhere I go, I've got to take everything with me.
For people like this woman, poverty is a trap. In order to get a job, you need an address. But in order to get an address, you need a job. The best deals often come in bulk. People who are lower class can't afford to buy in bulk. I came across this homeless teenager sharing how he manages being homeless. Take a look. He has a set budget per day to spend on what he needs while his mom is at work. Yes, his mom works a full-time job, and yet they still are homeless. A lot of homeless people have a day job. They just can't afford to live where they work. So many live in their car or roam the street. This kid is not even an adult yet, has to figure out his dinner out in the open until his mom picks him up. Then they sleep in their car. He cooks in the park using his electric stove. Most of the money he was given was spent on things like noodles, ham, energy drinks, and some snacks. He buys individual packages. Here's our first look at the cost of not buying in bulk. If he buys a larger pack, he could save money on the per unit cost. But you can see that he's not even given enough money to buy a multiple unit pack at once. The same logic applies to Costco memberships. Having a Costco membership can save you money, but you need to pay upfront for the membership, which may not be feasible for people living paycheck to paycheck. Plus, you need a car to carry that stuff home. You can't do that on a bus. For a lot of low-income people, they just have to miss out on good deals because bulk buying is not available to them. It's not just the fact that they can't take advantage of Costco per unit prices, but they can't shop for better deals. They have to make do with the price that's the nearest and the most accessible to them, even if it's at a higher price. There are certain communities with what's called food deserts. These are places where big chain retail stores such as Walmart, Target, Trader Joe's don't set up shops. These food deserts typically appear in places where it's majority people of color. Some call it racism, but others see it as a reasonable thing to do because these places experience more retail theft. I'm sure we all seen those videos of a large group of people stealing floating around online. Many of these perpetrators are not identified and most likely would remain so. If you don't own a car and you live in the food desert, you will have to pay more for the same items unless you take the time out of your day to wheel your shopping cart around, wait for the bus, take a long transit, do your shopping, and then go back home. That time could be better spent doing something else, perhaps learning a high-paying skill set, perhaps studying if you are a student. Perhaps picking up extra shift and making more money. Perhaps relaxing so you can perform better at work and get a raise. Not to mention that sometimes people don't have extra money for bus fares. They'd rather walk miles to the nearest store and do their shopping there instead. They buy in smaller quantities that cost less overall, but more if you divide the price by unit. Today, we are seeing more and more people becoming rich from nothing without having the right connections per se, by using the power of the internet. Which brings us to the next point. Even within lower class people, there are divides. This is a laptop, and this is another laptop. They look like the same laptop, isn't it? But they are different prices. The one here on the right is more expensive because it has a 16GB RAM. That's different from the storage gigabytes that we often consider when buying a phone or a laptop. The higher the RAM, the more things you can do at the same time. In order to run Premiere Pro, After Effects, or even free video editing software like DaVinci Resolve, you need a laptop with at least a 16GB RAM, otherwise your computer just won't work when doing basic editing. Not to mention, the video editing software such as Premiere Pro isn't exactly cheap. DaVinci Resolve can be a great free alternative, but personally, I prefer Premiere Pro. All these things cost money. If you want to make money online, you need to have money first. For people who are poor among the poor, where are they going to get the money to upgrade their laptops and pay for the recurring monthly video editing software and stock footage subscription cost? You don't exactly start making money from your YouTube videos right off the bat. There are certain opportunities to make money that just won't be available to poorer people if they aren't able to afford the basic equipment and software. How about the aesthetic of your home? If you don't have an aesthetic home, it's harder to make content and blow up online. People who have the privilege of being raised in an aesthetic home can take advantage of it when they're filming content for their videos. Many of these creators who are rich today, they started out from their childhood bedrooms. They started filming when they were still teenagers, and by the time they are an adult, they already have years of experience under their belts. Some of them didn't even go to university or college because they made enough money to never have to pursue a normal job. And it all was possible because they were raised in an aesthetic home.
I want to add something. For those of you who don't believe me, just imagine trying to get noticed on social media as a hopeful influencer while the place you live looks like this. I know it may be hard for some of you to comprehend, but this is what a lot of people's homes look like. Not everyone has the money to buy or rent beautiful places. Some cities have outrageous prices. We only see good-looking homes online because their owners are not shy to share videos of them, and people are more likely to engage with accounts that post aesthetic content. Sure, you can still make money online without an aesthetic home, but having an aesthetic home just makes things much easier. Want to do a vlog? Want to make content for social media? Want to take some cute selfies? It's much easier to grow as a content creator when you have the right aesthetics.
Poorer people buy more lottery. This wouldn't be a problem if the chances of winning were higher, but the chance of winning the lottery is about 1 in 13 million, depending on the game you play. Lottery was originally designed to help the government raise more money in taxes for wars. For a chance to win the big prize, people are less upset about having to pay the tax. Today, the lottery money can be used to build public infrastructures, fund social programs, and do things that benefits all citizens. But it's usually the lower class that pays into the system more. Not only do the rich buy less lottery and therefore pay less of that form of optional taxes, they also avoid taxes legally because they have the money to hire the right people to help them do so. Rich people are able to avoid paying taxes using trust, charities, and offshore bank accounts. I will cover this in another video. For normal people like us, these options are not available. We have to pay our unfair share of the taxes. For many, being poor is a cycle that they can't get out of. Some people cannot get a bank to approve their loans for school. If they want to go back to school, they have to seek alternative options such as payday loans, which is just a terrible idea. So most of them stay in their crappy, low-paying jobs that don't pay them enough to get out of motels. After subtracting all the bills each month, they are left with nothing. There's no extra money for them to learn higher paying skills. The lack of time and energy to do that is also a problem. This is a persistent, unsolvable problem for a lot of people. People who are barely scraping by and don't see any way out. It's a crazy world out there. I wish the best for all of you. Hey, there's always the possibility that $1 million would drop out of the sky, right? Cheers, stay inquisitive.